Hey team! Okay, this is another segment of our Relias walkthrough, and this time I'm going to show you a little bit about this users section. So, as mentioned earlier, the users is where we see all of our employees, and you'll see that it is for all of SL Start. There's a lot of SL Start employees, and it syncs with ADP, and so hopefully it'll all be active. As far as having just the employees that we currently have with us. You do, however, still have access to terminated employees. If you go over here, you can do inactive, and that'll give you all terminated employees. That can be very beneficial if you have an employee who is being rehired, and we need to check up on their trainings, like CPR, TO, various things that you can actually search for them. Check on their trainings, see what they need updated, and then once they are rehired, this same account just becomes active again so that we don't have duplicates. So that's kind of nice. You can also check to see who's on leave. That would be any formalized leave that would be listed in ADP, so that could be FMLA, military, leave of absence, anything that's kind of entered in that way. We're going to go back to active. So part of the user area is that it gives us access to see user transcripts. So I'm going to go ahead and search for myself. When you search, right, it's going to bring up all things that have those letters in that same order. I say that because sometimes I can't spell a person's last name off the top of my head, so I'll put like the first couple letters and then it gets me close enough. So here's everyone that has Megan on the SL Start. So I'm right here, Megan Kennedy. So when you're looking at the users, you've got the check mark that you could do to change their status. We usually just let ADP sync and do that. You've got the little booklet, which is their transcripts, which allows you to view or assign training. Email address is what this little envelope is. So if it lights up blue like these are, that means that they have entered an email address. If it's gray, that means they have no email address in their profile, so you won't be able to email them. Keep in mind though, unless they are actually management employees, they probably don't have a company email, and then we can't guarantee how frequently they check their email. Alright, you're going to see the hierarchy. So most of these Megans actually work here in Boise. They're rolling if they're active. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the view or assign training. It's going to bring me to the employee transcript. So this is going to show all of their currently assigned trainings, all of their completed trainings, and then anything that might be pending. So I have actually enrolled in quite a few courses and have auto enrollments for a lot of these things as well. So you'll see quite a bit on my transcript. Each of these is the title is going to be the course that is assigned. So if it has a white circle, that means it's not started, but it's been assigned for that person. It'll show you the type. So this one is an online course versus this signature, which would mean that it's a live event. It's going to show me the grade, which you're not going to see a grade unless it's actually completed. When they last accessed it, which again, if it's not started, there would not be a last access date. When it's available to the learner and when it's due. So like this one, it's not available to me until next year. So if I were to actually go into my learner profile, I'm not going to see that listed. This is just saying that at one point in time, this will be available and I will need to complete it. For this calendar year, 2017, I've already completed it. So I've got the title, the course, the number of credit hours. This doesn't mean how many hours I spent on it. This means how many credit hours it's worth. It'll have my grade, when I last accessed it. Since it's completed, it's no longer available, the due date, and when it was completed. Relias also has this cool program called BrainSparks, which is essentially just little reminder review things. It'll send an email with like a question with 4 options. You email the answer back, and they're just BrainSparks. It's just another way that they have to keep training readily on people's minds. I have not been very compliant with my BrainSparks, but they're also not really a requirement. It's just a fun additional thing. So you can go and you can see the green check mark means it was completed. Now, some things you'll see have this, where it looks like a pie, but the pie has some pie cut out of it. That means it's in progress. So it means that I opened it, right? I opened it back in September 1st, but it hasn't been completed. So I don't have a completed date and I don't have a grade. So that'd be something that if I went into my learner profile, I would be able to resume that from wherever it is that I left off. If it's a live event and it's not due yet, it's going to show registration pending. So this means that I could register to attend one of these classes. Now, I don't actually have any sessions created for this class yet, but if I did, when I clicked registration pending, it would bring me to where I could see the sessions. Looks like none of Idaho has a session for that either. But then as a learner, I could then enroll into the session, or as an administrator for Relias, I could enroll another learner into that session. All right, back we go. The back buttons and the return to modules don't always actually return you to your last screen, so just a thing to keep in mind. If you're going to go toy around with it and you're on a time crunch, be aware of that fact. Okay, so back into my learner transcript. All right, so you'll see all of my various options down here. Now, sometimes you'll see where there's a circle with a check mark, but it's gray. That means it was completed after the assigned due date was assigned. So this one was due July 31st. I didn't complete it until August 18th. I know, horrible. How could I do such a thing? But that's where you'll see that gray area. So this is a great thing that if I'm just wanting to check one learner, like we have someone coming for rehire or state's asking for something, I would be able to just pull this, see what they have due, when it's due, what they've completed, and the such. Now, as an administrator, I also have a couple other options with their transcript. I can edit their user. So this is where I could change their password if they're having a difficulty logging in. I could adjust their security questions, could add in an email, their personal information. A lot of this is actually going to automatically sync with Relias, with ADP, so you're not going to have all these blank. They'll typically be filled in. Now, as an administrator, I also have access to give other people access. So if we had a new supervisor, I could give them supervisory privileges. If we have a new instructor, so maybe a new Q or someone who might be facilitating classes, I could give them instructor privileges. So I can go into any user's account and change their privileges. Do this very judiciously. We don't want a whole lot of people to have access to changing this because, again, it's for the entire company. Organization ID, that's just helpful that if you have someone logging into the just generic Relias app, it's going to ask them for an organization ID. That is our SL Starts organization ID. Okay, so back to my transcript, I'm going to click on the book. I'm not going to save. Okay. I also have the option to add external courses. So if I had external course templates, so like if we had developed e-learning and loaded it into Relias as an external course, this is where I could add that they completed it. The only templates we have so far are Washington State and then job experience training. So this can be helpful for if someone's completed their jetpack, you can put the start date, end date, location. It automatically puts credit hours to 40 because that's a requirement. You could then also scan in the jetpack if you wanted to upload it and then submit. And then that would put that in their employee file. You have the option to export. So I could export this into a nice Excel file such as this, and then I'll be able to print that out, pull the data into multiple different formats. I also have the option to print a transcript, which actually puts up a pre-formulated transcript. Looks nice and beautiful with the courses I took, when they were completed, the hours, final exam, instructor, organization, and at the end lets me sign that I certify that I received those trainings. So that's kind of a cool one to do and potentially might be useful later on as we go more towards e-learning. Also, there are the ability to see a couple other things up in here. We don't necessarily use these as often, but if I wanted to see what trainings are currently assigned, these are the ones that are currently assigned to me. These are my current license and certifications. Since I am not a nurse or have any sort of credentials such as those that require CEs, I do not have a license or certification in here. And my attendance record. So this would be that if I did not complete a training, or if I was set to attend a training and I did not show up, it would show up in here that I had missed it or if I had attended. So I could see if you have someone who frequently signs up for trainings and doesn't show up, you can kind of see those trends here. So that's a little bit about users and how you can manage the user transcript and kind of understand what that area has for you. Thanks, and stay tuned for next time.